To order. If you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call.
Thank you. Erica Brosslers,
Present.
Corey O'Connor,
Here.
Sarah Monrado, Frank DeCristofaro,
Here.
Kimberly Joyce,
Here.
Jennifer Liptak,
Here.
Sarah Roca.
Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
President's update, that's me. We held an executive session immediately before this meeting. The session included an update on the Allegheny County Airport Authority with Brian Gabriel, our solicitor, regarding information and strategy in connection with anticipated complaints and pending litigation, including the case filed as General Docket 24-9033 in the Allegheny County Court of Common Pleas. The next item is formation of a tax claim RFP committee, and I've actually adjusted that. Manager Szymanski is going to use some staff from the Controller's or Treasurer's office to get together a team to review these tax claim RFPs. It's looking like there might only be 2 coming in. And then the formation of the contribution rate committee. That group will be chaired by Jen Liptak, and also have Amy Weiss and Sarah Roca. Other updates, I wrote them on my sheet of paper. Walt might cover this in his manager update. We spoke yesterday at the Allegheny County Retiree Association luncheon. Thank you, Jack, for for hosting us. And we gave the retirees an update on pension plan funded status, activities of the plan and board over the past year, and answered questions. There is concern over, there are a lot of questions and concerns around funding status, and we assured them that based on the state law, the county always stands behind ensuring that the pension benefits will be paid. I will be setting up a funding working group. I'll announce it formally at next month's meeting to work on, in the long term, on how to increase our funding and work with the state as necessary to adjust the retirement law. That concludes my updates. On to some board approvals. Oh, which I guess is me again. Can I have a motion to approve the board meeting minutes from October 17th, 2024?
Second.
Hearing a motion and second, is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion to accept the financial statements, which include the pension fund assets, the statements of changes in pension plan assets, and the RBAC balance sheet for September 2024. Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, I'm looking for a motion to approve the November invoices totaling $344,951.30.
Motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Next, we have retirement applications. I'm looking for a motion to approve the following November 2024 applications, which include 8 early retirements and 12 full retirements.
Motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, aye. Any opposed? Next, we have 3, and should I read them each separately? I'll read them each separately, or I can do them as a group.
You can read them all as one, but I would just list out each number
Okay.
since they're all for approval.
Thank you all. We have 3 disability applications to approve. So it's a motion to approve that members number 095134, member number 102903, member number 10418. Upon recommendation of 3 designated physicians, these members are totally and permanently disabled from any gainful employment. Do I have a motion to approve those?
Motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. It's not my turn anymore. On to reports. Manager Samansky.
Thank you very much. If you turn to the manager's report section of your board books, I'll highlight some areas on the dashboard. Retiree payroll is up 4% on the year, $12,221,000 this year compared to $11,676,000 last year. Contributions refunded are down 4.21%. Total retirements are actually down for the moment at 13.83%. Pension estimates, if you turn to that section there, what we did was update. So now our software actually tracks the number of online estimates that come in every month. So we're going to eventually have it also track all estimates ran. We're right now printing them out and then tallying them at the end of the month. So I shortened it down, so now you'll just see office estimates at a total of 154, online estimates at 81, and it's always going to be as the prior month ending. So that would have been as of October 31st. And then the online portal logins are also listed too, so 665 people logged in just in October alone. Capital calls are actually the same amount, but up 38.31% from last year, and then total capital calls were 1.835 million as of the prior board meeting. I also have listed under the BlackRock Liquidity Fund, we had sold $8 million last month. It was transferred to cash, and then $5 million was transferred to FNB Bank to cover retiree payroll. The office budget as of October 31st is listed, and is there any questions on the dashboard before I get into approvals and updates?
I have one. Does anyone want to go before me? No. Do you have it looks like you're receiving about the same number of estimates in the office. Do you think that folks running online are sort of people that wouldn't have called?
Yeah, I
Okay.
believe more, now that it's up and running, I think people are more user-friendly. When the more they use it, they're going to want to run their own all the time to run different scenarios versus waiting for us or swapping in to run it. So hopefully that number will keep climbing as the months go by.
Great. And and maybe this is in your next part, how's it going with all the online pieces?
So far, so good.
Great.
I think everything's turning out really well.
Thank you.
Welcome. So I have two approval requests. The first was brought last month just for review, but the first would be a motion to extend the contract with Phase 14 for an additional 2 years at the current contract rate with an end date of 12/31/26. The current rate is $1,750 per month for retainer and intake. Then each employee that applies is a cost of $2,700.
Make that,
Oh, go ahead. I was going to ask for a motion.
okay, go ahead.
Would someone make the motion?
Make that motion.
Second.
Sorry about that.
That's great. Hearing a motion in a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes.
Thank you. The next is a motion to extend the contract with Kate Sabatini for audit services. This would be for 1 year at $18,000. This would start the 2024 audit at approximately February of next year.
Motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion in a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion to extend the contract for Case Sabatini for 1 year passes.
Thank you. So next are board updates, which will also be included with the December packet for approval, but these are just for your review this month. The first is the 2025 draft budget. That's included for your review. The final budget will be presented with a vote at the December 19th meeting. The Snyder Downs contract for 2025 is included for review. The contract will remain at the price of $3,500 per quarter. It's the same rate as 2024. This provides assistance and tax assistance while we're developing still the Coriac software. The next would be the Duncan financial contracts for 2025. Duncan provides seminars for Social Security, Medicare, investment planning, and other topics and help prepare employees for retirement. The cost would be $7,050 per quarter for 25 and $7,450 for 26. And then the online wellness is at a cost of $2,100 per quarter. And then the Coriac maintenance contract for 2024 is attached. The 2025 amount would remain the same. That would be for portal maintenance and pension software maintenance at $200,000 a year. And then Coriac will also present at the December meeting for the estimated enhancement costs on the software. We're looking at about a 3-year window with so many projects per year, and we're hoping to finalize a lot of the reporting in 2025. 2026 have a retiree portal built for the retirees to log in, and then 2027 be able to finish any last items that we see before the software's totally complete. And then with your remarks earlier, too, I just wanted to thank ACRA for having us out yesterday. That was very well attended. I believe there was close to 100 people there. All the retirees were great, and we gave a nice presentation, and we were thanked quite a bit when it was done. So thank you, Jack and team, for having us. And that's all I have this month.
I could before next month's meeting, thank you, Walt. Before next month's meeting, could you also provide us numbers for if we have counts for how many folks either access Duncan webinars, and maybe that's.
Oh, absolutely. I actually have, I've asked them for that, so I
Okay.
should have it to include
Great.
with the contract numbers.
Are
Thank
there
you.
any other questions for Walt? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is our solicitor, Brian Gabriel.
Thank you, Erica. The board has the solicitor's report dated November 14th, 2024. I do not have any items outside of the report to bring to the board's attention, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
There's one thing I wanted to add to it. Item 1A refers to a piece of House legislation, the State House. I'll just note that since it's the end of a legislative session, kind of the slate gets wiped clean. So if a legislator wanted that bill, they'd have to resubmit it forward, re-propose it, and have it voted on, blah, blah, blah. So, so that's sort of sleeping. And then I didn't have anything else. Any other questions or items for Brian? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have our one asset consultant. Chris and Tim from Mariner, take it away.
Thank you. We have 3 items. The first 2 we discussed at the last meeting, so we can discuss in any depth that the board desires, but I think we went through the proposed rebalancing process and also eliminating the liquid policy portfolio and the emerging manager updated investment policy statement. So those are the 2 items for action, and then the rest of the report is a brief update on the market and on your portfolio. So if you turn to page 2.
Sorry, should I do the motions? I realize I have.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
If
Yeah.
you have enough from me, please do.
Well, because I think let's do the 2 motions.
Yes.
Unless you plan to talk about either of them further. No. So the first one is related to the cash raising process recommendation that was made last month, and that would look like Mariner being able to raise up to $15 million in cash monthly and reporting back to us after the fact. And that would be to fund benefit payments and refunds during a month. Is there, I guess I'll ask for a motion to approve it, and then if there's any discussion.
Motion to approve. I just have one question.
We've got a motion, can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, motions
Just
and seconds.
quickly,
come from
could you
this
guys?
discussion.
Oh,
Go ahead.
From this side of the room, yeah. Can you guys do quarterly projections on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's all. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. That was it. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor to approve the cash raising process recommendation?
Aye.
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 And any opposed? Motion passes. And next was the emerging manager investment policy statement. Is that what
Correct.
IPS stands
Yes.
for? Amendment, and that would be to amend the emerging manager program such that the plan would need to be over 80% funded. We did define a specific funding target with the actuary, so that is clear in the proposal. Can we have a motion to approve the emerging manager IPS amendment?
Second.
Hearing a motion in a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. And
Okay.
next, it's back to you for the portfolio update.
Page 7. Page 7 is the market update through October, and you see in the month of October that both stocks and bonds had some negative performance. There was some significant movement in the month of November that I try not to, speak to up to the minute, up to the date, but when it is significant, I want to mention it. And so these negative numbers, when it comes to the U.S. equity market, S&P 500, Russell 2000 small cap, for example, those are now quarter to date positive. So markets are up, U.S. markets 2 to 4%. International markets remain negative. And the fixed income market, bonds, also remains negative, more or less where you see on this October report. So the U.S. stock market had some favorable recent performance. Bonds, interest rates had gone up prior in the month of October, and they've stayed a bit elevated. So interest rates, there's a potential, the idea is potentially inflation might come back, and therefore interest rates, which had declined in the third quarter, rose a bit in the quarter-to-date period. Any questions on the market? So your portfolio, if you turn to page 10, and this is through September, your total portfolio up 1.23% in the month of September. Year-to-date, up 7.29, and over the trailing 12 months, 13.14. U.S. and international equity for the month really led the portfolio forward, earning 1.6% in the U.S. market and 2 3/4 in the international market. Interestingly, over the last several months, and you've probably heard me say, I'm sorry to repeat it again, Magnificent Seven, large cap stocks, that has started to reverse a bit. That is other parts of the market, and you have small cap managers in your portfolio. Small cap performing well, and international too. So it's not just those mega cap U.S. stocks moving forward. Fixed income, positive for the month and year to date, as well as past year. I mentioned the most recent update. Fortunately, some of the managers in your fixed income portfolio have less exposure to interest rates, so you can expect in a rising interest rate environment, your core fixed income total portfolio should outperform the index. And you see it's behind the index during this period of very strong performance. So less volatile than the index, and could be helpful going forward if there's more volatility in the fixed income market. If we look at cash flows, I wanted to make a comment on pages 6, starting on page 16. This shows the cash flows year to date. And what I wanted to point out is some of the funding. You look at the top of the page through the end of the third quarter, negative $42 million. So $42 million coming out of the fund primarily to pay the benefit payments. And some of that you see coming from equity. And I'm looking not at the individual managers, but at the asset class in total. Some of that coming from equity and high yield. And on the next page, page 17, you see some significant amounts from private equity towards the middle of the page. And finally, the liquid policy portfolio, which, again, after your approval, will become the main source of funds for the next several months. and that portfolio is about 70% equity. So overall, all of those cash flows really removing assets from some of the riskier parts of the portfolio. So those parts of the portfolio have performed well, and this is really part of the long-term rebalancing through the funding of the benefit payments. So that's really all I had in terms of prepared remarks. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Well, I prepared a couple. I know you mentioned on one of our pre-meeting calls a couple weeks ago that you're working hard, and I know you are, on the private equity onboarding. Would one of you care to speak just a little tiny bit to that? I know it'll be about 6 months till we see a thing.
Sure. So we started out of the gates making sure that we requested all of the data that we weren't receiving or that we thought might be absent from the previous consultant's report. So right now we're backfilling all of that historical data. I would say it's 90 to 95% complete, just following up on a couple stragglers, non-compliant, less hop to it type of managers. We are also at the same time doing kind of a qualitative evaluations of which managers we don't feel have an appropriate place in the portfolio going forward. So we don't have a firm number on what a potential reduction in strategy count or just line item count would look like, but we have to marry that with potentially taking a haircut in the secondary market, which we aren't willing to do at this point in time just to get rid of a strategy. So everything's moving forward, but there's been a lot of data to collect.
If, excuse me, if I can add to that, not necessarily on the reporting piece, but I mentioned on page 17, you can see 8.4 million net coming from private equity in the year-to-date period. In the last month, or the period since the last board meeting, there's been another 2.4 million and a total of about 14 distributions. So that part is important, and we're working on getting all the information and presenting it. What I wanted to share is it does look like with interest rates, at least in the near term, declining, the market has opened up a bit for some of these private equity investments, and a few of those distributions run the order of $600,000-$700,000. So meaningful distributions from some of the private equity funds. So as we work to get the data, we're still, let's say, decreasing the overall allocation, which is now 17.9% versus the target of 20%. And it's come down from approximately 23% of the portfolio 2.5 years ago.
Yes. Okay, yeah, I was looking to see what the range is, and it looks like we've got a 15 to 25% range for that. It looks like we have a 15 to 20, like the first
range,
corridor, yeah. Okay.
So you are still within the range.
But we're on the side.
Tim wanted me to wanted to remind me.
I can say it myself. We'll be delivering a pacing study in January or February that will complement what Chris just said. We won't use algebra for the asset allocation decisions. It'll be a little bit more complex, measuring, expected distributions, expected capital calls, and then who's coming to market with any potential strategies.
They're calling me every other day. They're like, I got this great thing for you. And I'm like, I'm good. And then my second item wasn't a question, it was just a comment. Neither Walter or I had brought it up before. I mentioned at a prior meeting that as active payroll puts in the 11%, both from employees and the county and the airport, that money historically has come into a F&B account and then is used to pay out distributions monthly. And we're working with our treasury team in the treasurer's office to have that money go into BNY Mellon, so it'll be able to be available to be a little more fully invested, so that the managers are managing how it is invested and not the treasurer in a bank account that happens to exist. So I'm excited for that step. It sounds like it'll become online in December. Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have my favorite people in the universe, actuaries, Brad Rigby and Todd, and it looks like no Amanda from Acrisure. And I don't know if you'll be happy or sad to hear that the copy of the report that I had with all my notes is sitting sadly on my desk, crying, wishing it were here. So we'll just see what I can do from memory as we look through the report.
I don't think we're going to have time for questions at the end anyway.
Oh.
The meeting got started late.
There's always time to talk actuarial stuff.
We very much appreciate being here. We have in front of you today the actual evaluation report for 1/1/24. It's important to note that this is a snapshot point in time measurement and comparison of liabilities to assets as of the beginning of this year. So it doesn't reflect any of the positive performance that Chris just reported on. This is just reporting and making a comparison at the beginning of the year. And to make sure that it ties in with communications we've given you at some of the recent meetings with projections and changing interest rates, this is still built upon an assumption of 7.75%. We've had some discussions, and that continues to be ongoing. But for the way that ties into these calculations, we discount, in determining liabilities, we discount those projected future cash flows at that 7.75. So a higher investment return assumption leads to lower liabilities, or the inverse is also true. A lower discount rate will then lead to higher liabilities. In your report, it begins with the actuarial valuation. So I'm going to jump forward to page 4 of that actuarial valuation report to show you where the funded percentages lie. Actuaries like to calculate liabilities and funded percentages in a bunch of different ways. They all relate and include various components. We have historically always made sure to draw attention to the total funded status ratio, because there is a component of the second-class county code that affects benefits should that funded ratio get to a certain threshold. As you can see here, there's been a slight improvement in that total funded status ratio from 2023 to 2024. We're at 64.3% now. That increase is in large part due to the increase in the contribution rate that was up to 22% in total for this year.
What was that section of the second-class county code? I've never heard that before.
It's a spot that provides for an automatic COLA if that total funded status ratio is above 110%.
Is that in our retirement law, or is that in the second-class county code?
Yes,
Okay, so it's in our retirement law.
yes.
Okay. I hear second-class county code. Okay, I got it. It's in
They're one
our
and the same, yes.
Okay.
Another way to view the plan, and I would argue probably a more appropriate comparison of the assets that I have on hand to that benefit promise and the liability, is what's shown in the middle, the accrued liability funded status. And this is what we pointed to when it was mentioned within the Mariner report about tying into that relevant component on the emerging manager. 42.7% funded. That is comparing the assets right off of your financial statement, which, as we show you in a later exhibit, we use a market value here. There's no smoothing of gains or losses. It's been an intentional decision of the board over the years to make sure that it's as transparent as possible by using that market value. And comparing it to this accrued liability, which is $2.22 billion as of the beginning of 2024, that is reflecting the service that has been worked by employees to date up through that measurement date, and then including a component of future pay, which is relevant for a plan of this design. So I would say that the plan's 42.7% funded this year, but again, on that total funded status ratio, 64.3% funded.
Can I make a comment?
Certainly.
Right, I get asked sometimes, what would it take to fully fund the pension plan? And so when I look at some of these numbers, and I have them in my old copy, right? If we had another $1 billion, the plan would be, with a B, right?
Yeah.
With a B and all those zeros. The plan on the total funded status basis or on the actuarial benefit funded basis, then it would be about 100% funded.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
On page 6, we show a reconciliation of the plan assets over time. This is pulled directly from your audit report, your financial statements. Of note, the plan took in about $90 million in contributions split between the county and employees over the course of, now we're looking backwards to what occurred during 2023. And then during that same period of time between benefit payments and contribution refunds, paid out about $147 million. So the plan continues to pay out more than is incoming through contributions. The necessary improvements then are exceptional investment return to help maintain the level of plan assets. Drawing your attention back to page 8, the change in the contribution rate up to 22% because of the way that we measure liabilities increased liability by about $600,000. Relatively minor when we're talking about a plan of $2.2 billion. But we additionally had about a $19 million, it's the footnote at the bottom, a $19 million loss on the liability side because, and in large part, many different components on the demographic side go into that. But a very, very big component of that was due to pay increases beyond what we expected. And as we've had discussions many times in the past, a lot of it tends to be overtime or things that occur late in employment.
Can I ask a question or make a comment here? On page 7, we have, it's a page about normal cost, which I generally think of as like how much is happening during the year. So under normal cost, it says benefit normal cost, 37 million. Or 38 million for 2024, if I want to look at the right column. And so my understanding is that is sort of the what is earned by employees during that year. So our employees are earning about, the way you calculate it, $39 million worth of benefits, plus we're paying out a little under $2 million in expenses, which is basically the retirement office expenses. And I'll just note, right, for people who are coming to understand stuff on the pension plan, we're putting in $91 million between the employee contributions of about $46 million and the county and airport contributions of about 46. I'm looking at the right line. So we are putting a lot of money in the plan compared to what's accruing. The issue is that we have these big already promised benefits that we haven't already funded.
That's right.
So,
And if I can attach some percentages to that to maybe hopefully add some clarity. The value of the benefit that is earned throughout the year and the cost to run the plan add to about 9.1% of payroll. And then 11% of payroll is contributed by the employee and an additional 11% is contributed by the county. So the growth of the liabilities by just work is about 9%.
Thank you.
The rest of this report provides a lot of additional detail. And if you flip even beyond the actuarial report, we have an executive summary that shows how some of these items have changed over the course of the last several years. They provide summary. I don't have any other items within that I intended to draw attention to, but by all means, we're happy to take any and all questions.
Are there any? I'll ask one. I love, I'm a former actuary, I love reading assumptions and methods in the back. And one of the questions I had is what has been historically our process for sitting down with, for the board's process for sitting down with the actuary to talk about assumptions earlier in the year, right, prior to us getting a report. I know some of the like retirement increment assumptions and some others, it looks like those studies are approaching 10 years old. So what would be your recommendation in kind of timing for next year to like kind of sit down and go through what assumptions we're using and where you might recommend updates. And I think that would also include the interest rate discussion.
Certainly. Yeah, as you well noted, we're a little long in the tooth when it comes to reviewing some of these assumptions. We've looked at several of them over the recent years and deemed them to be okay, or at least continuing to be appropriate based upon where things are, but certain other ones I think could use an update. Obviously, we did a couple of years ago update the life expectancy assumptions under that mortality return, but it is something that we want to address, and as Todd's noting here, disability, we touched on a few years ago.
Yeah, I think we reviewed that probably in 2020. We reviewed the 2015 to 2019 time period, and we reviewed the retirement turnover assumptions at that point in time as well, but did not find it appropriate to make a change at that time.
But as far as the process goes for 2025, it is something that we want to do. The steps would require us, and we would do it after getting an updated valuation census. We're excited about the update in the valuation software that'll make getting and collecting information a lot more quickly and allow us to update that earlier in the year. I would expect that we're looking probably second quarter or sometime over the summer maybe, where we can have not only the data updated, but an analysis of the validity or reasonableness of these assumptions that we're using. And then, yes, we would certainly come back to you. The assumption around the investment return one, however, can be a conversation that we have ongoing and look at any point in time. As a matter of fact, we've already begun preparations for the contribution subcommittee meetings that will be taking place. And in that, we're going to be putting together some exhibits that illustrate the impact of lesser investment returns and how that would project planned funding.
Thank you. I'll call you with all my other tiny questions later. Thank you. Oh, Walt.
We just need a motion to accept the report in the
thank
executive
you.
summary. Thank you.
May I have a motion to accept the 1/1/24 actuarial valuation report and executive summary?
Second.
Hearing a motion in a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we have new business. And the first bullet point is the bylaws committee. I'll give an update on that, and then we can have some time for discussion. So the bylaws committee met twice over the past few months. I'll note that the retirement plan does not currently have any bylaws. So our solicitor drafted up some proposed bylaws. The bylaws committee is Sarah Roca, Amy Weiss, me, Walt, and Brian joined. And so we talked through, we made a lot of changes that makes from the original draft that makes sense to us. The bylaws are included in here. I know we'd had some comments and questions, so I thought we'd have a little time. I imagine it's just like 2 to 10 minutes today to bring up anything folks have questions about or have ideas for consideration, and then I can ask the bylaws committee to meet one more time with a finalized version, and then hopefully we can get to a point where we vote on the set of bylaws at next month's meeting. So I'll start by offering, does anyone have any questions or items they want to raise?
I gave mine to.
Okay. And so I know I know there was a question around the one appoint. It lists in here that the appointment of the executive would there'd be like a 90-day period around that, and it was brought up that we should also extend that to the appointment of county council. And so I think that was one item. Another item I heard is that we want to consider that we wouldn't be able to vote on an item at a regular meeting. I guess make it explicit that we wouldn't be able to vote on an item at a regular or special meeting unless it was on a publicly posted agenda. That's sort of in line with the sunshine law, so we can discuss if that's something we want to put explicitly in our bylaws. And then the other piece of feedback I heard was if we wanted to, and this hasn't, from what I can tell, ever been an issue on this board, have a process for censuring a member if they were to miss several meetings. And it doesn't sound like that ever would have happened because it hasn't ever happened. But if there was anything else anyone wanted to raise,
I think the only other thing that I sent to Walt was in regards to the default positions of the treasurer and the controller. And so, if you get elected into a higher level position, do we need to document that that supersedes your default position? So, for instance, your default position is treasurer, but you're actually elected to be president.
did it used to say president treasurer on the prior treasurers? Or was it always president? It's interesting, I agree. The treasurer set out in the statute, so I don't think we can take that away. And I think historically they were president/treasurer. They're, as far as I can tell, there's no actual treasuring function on the board. So
I think there is, because I think there's a little bit of with the money going back and forth with the county, right? Like, there is a role.
Maybe the
In the
contribution.
minutes, like the
yeah.
secretary, the controller, there's a role because you keep track of the minutes. So there is a slight role, don't you think?
if we were to explicitly write down what it is, you think is
It's in the law. I don't think we have to.
I think it just says I'd be the treasurer. I don't think it says what the treasurer does. I guess, Brian, we've got someone who's in charge.
That's right. I mean, it does say you're the treasurer. It does not expound on what that.
Well, and so maybe that's something we should put in the bylaws. Like what, well, because, I mean, I don't think I'm doing, I know I'm not doing anything that I would consider being the treasurer for the retirement plan. So if there's something I should be doing that I'm not doing, it'd be great. Amy's giving me some looks. I mean, I think the controller's office does they do a lot of the financial record keeping, like practically speaking.
The money comes through you have money that comes through your office as well, so.
Yeah, but I'd like to get to a place where it doesn't. I mean, like realistically, I think the board would be better situated without, like, some things coming out of our office. When we make payments, are they running through the general fund, or are they running straight out of?
They're running through the retirement fund, but the money that comes.
Oh, the retirement checking account.
Yeah, but the money that comes out, so the contribution-wise, your office is over. So when contributions come in, they transfer them to the bank, and then, we work with them on the payroll side of it as well. But yeah, when it comes to all the invoices and so forth, that comes out of the retirements fund.
Right. And so I think, we're looking at next year, seeing if we can potentially consolidate the check writing's happening out of an FMB account, even though we're keeping all the money at BNY as a trustee. So we'll be looking at if we can move some of that so that there's just one spot. But I'll touch base with you after to see, and Amy, to see like what we think is included in the treasurer responsibilities. Did you get what you needed on yours from when you brought it up, or is it a question?
Yeah, I know. I think, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Whatever the decision is, it's just,
Okay.
I was just bringing it up in case.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Thank you. And then I think did you have a business item?
Yeah, I just had a business item. Well, we got some invoices from some contracts that have been with the county for 15, 20 plus years, and there wasn't any detail with the contracts. And this board in the last year, I think, has been very proactive in being transparent about these things. So we'll send out to the board that, there's some contracts that probably are past due to be RFP'd. So just wanted to be transparent, but just let everybody know that we'll be sending emails around for some of those contracts that we recently received. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Does anyone else have any new business items? What? I allocated an hour and a half for this meeting because there's an actuarial report. Well, can I have a motion? Oh, then our next meeting is December 19th, 2024. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Motion and seconds. Bye.